Hospital Porter's pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. I'm currently here in Cowley, Oxford, and that over there is a polling station where in a moment I'm going to go in and I'm going to do my democratic duty and right of voting. Yes, now I just want to give you a little aside. I'm actually standing outside this here, World Class Sunbed tanning studio here, which is called Console here in Oxford. And I just thought I'd mention that because this used to be a shop. This actually used to be a shop, like a corner shop with groceries, owned by a chap called Imran, who's an ex-hospital porter. So I'm very sad to see that it's closed down and been replaced. Anyway, I think what I've got to do now is go over to the polling station and do my stuff. I have a pen here, and I'll say a bit more about that while I've got a pen with me in a minute. But first of all, let's go and do it. I'm not allowed to film inside the polling station. There's a rule against that. They don't allow cameras in there. You can't photograph, you can't film. You just got to go in there without that and do your filming and do your voting. So I'm going to go in there and I'll just tell you what the experience was like. I haven't voted for a while. Last time I voted was I think it was the referendum, you know. It's the 2016 referendum. I didn't vote in. I don't think I bothered voting in the 2016 election. There's no point really. Anyway, weigh in. Opening times. You're probably in the queue outside. Oh, right. There's no queue now. Apparently it gets busier later anyway. So I think so. Luckily, it's my lunch break from work. I'm not actually working at the moment. I am just got an hour off, so I thought I'd come over here because I work near here as well as living. I live very close and I work very close. Every polling station, I think you've got to be within a mile or something like that. So I'm going to go in now. I'm going to vote, and then I'm going to go back to work. Before I go back to work, I'll say a few words.
Right, now this is the middle bit where I was going to put in like a little slide just saying, oh, Ben is in the polling station voting, come back later, or something like that. But then I thought I'd include these pictures as well, and of course you've seen one of these in the title slide, and you'll see another one at the end. But I just thought I'd tell you a little bit about them because I came across these quite by chance. They're actually quite close to where I live. It's obviously, this is painted on the side of a house in Oxford, and it's quite close to where I live, just a few hundred yards, and I was basically heading out, but I went a different way than usual, and if I hadn't, I wouldn't have seen these. If I'd gone my usual way, I wouldn't have seen these. And I don't know how long it's been there. I mean, it certainly wasn't there the last time I walked along. But as you can see, this is quite amusing, this little mural here, and it's rather like the ones I've told you about during my Cowley Road video, where I luckily managed to capture a mural which had been painted on the house. It was later obliterated because the new owners painted it over. This one I've captured just in case it gets painted over, but it's Ship of Fools there, and you can see a number of figures at the bottom, and these figures are quite clear. When you look at them closely, you can quite clearly see that they are prime ministers. You have them on the far left there. You have Theresa May, and then just to the right of Theresa May, which is pretty much where he is politically, you have Boris Johnson with that famous hair, and then the guy with the pig on his head, obviously David Cameron, and the grey guy to his right there is clearly John Major. Yes, so it's quite a lot, but there's one more, of course, and I can't quite see who that is. Is it Tony Blair? I'm not sure. It's a wonderful thing anyway. Lovely satirical mural about politics and the election. Oh, this is really funny. This is on the front of the house. And this here is obviously President Trump, I think, from behind, climbing up the side of the wall. And I think he's wearing a baby's nappy there, which is like rather like the big balloon they had of him in London. Now, it says on these here, it says Bojo Black Friday bargain basement bring and buy boot sale. Oh, lots of B's there. Now, as you know, I think this is obviously offensive to President Trump. I mean, portraying him that way. And I hope you won't think any worse of me for it if you are also a President Trump fan, which I am. You know, but I can't help laughing at things like this. And I mean, it's like that statue of Trump on the toilet in the march, which is when I was attacked on the Trump march. I did say I admit that's funny, because I do find these things funny, and I mean, people have done these things of me, and I find them funny. It's not because I disrespect the the butt of the joke at all. It really is not, and I hope you understand that. And we see in this house, actually, they're obviously a family of artists, or there's an artist living there. We have some more interesting pictures of Trump now. We have interesting pictures of President Trump. He's a balloon, he's a kite. 1776, the first flyer, and there's pictures of him with, I think there is other statesmen in there, and I don't know what these other pictures are. But you know, I just find I do admire this sort of thing. I do admire satirical art, and sometimes it's satirizing opinions I don't agree with. It's maybe lampooning people I myself respect and admire, like Boris Johnson, like Donald Trump. But you know, I do like satirical humour. For example, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Pie. You know, Jonathan Pie, the famous sketch show guy, who does these sketches where he's a newsreader and he's sort of like off camera. Again, I don't agree with all his views. I think he's wrong about a lot of things, such as climate change, Brexit, etc. But I laugh my head off at him, and I respect him. I like what he does. And honestly, people. Maybe it's because I've got rather a thick skin because I've had to deal with trolls for so many years, but people do this about me. People have made joke videos about me, and they've made images of me that are quite, you know, it's obviously meant to be kind of like poking fun at me, and I don't feel offended. I really don't. And I kind of project that onto other people. I project that lack of offence onto other people. So again, I'm not trying to insult anyone here. I really am not. And I wanted just to share this, just one last thing here. Google has given the UK elections their very own logo. Yeah, of course, I'm sure this is only visible in the UK, but it's quite amusing that they've actually done this. I don't think they've actually done this before, I'm not sure, but you see a UK elections for Google, which will last all of today, of course. I just happened to click there just after midnight and see it. Well, I don't know if that's good news or bad, but I thought, I'll preserve that for posterity.
Okay, I've voted. I've done my duty, my democratic duty. I'm here, it's a very wet day here in Oxford, and I've done it. The deed is done. I'm just going to cross over because it's actually horrible weather, like it has been almost every day for the last week here in Oxford. So I don't want to go somewhere where it's dry. I don't know if there is anywhere where it's dry, actually. I've got to go back to work anyway. But let me just get myself sorted out. Yeah, it's actually not difficult to do. So it's noisy. So it's noisy here. I'll go somewhere where it's quieter. Hold on a sec. Okay, I've come a little way now. It's a little bit quieter than it was out there. Let's face facts, I'm not going to find somewhere that's dry and quiet today. I just hope the camera doesn't get soaked. So I'm just going to do my best as with what I have. I've just voted, yeah. I just voted in this election, which, if you remember the general election live stream I did the other night, and there'll be a link in the description box to that, as well as my Brexit portal, which contains all my Brexit publications, then you will know that this is no ordinary general election. Oh, what's happened now? Okay, just drying the lens because there's going to be rainwater on the lens, just to warn you. Can't avoid that. Steve Mumling's right. This bloody weather here in Britain is disgusting. I envy him right now. Yeah, this is not the same kind of election. As I said, I didn't bother voting in the 2017 one. There was no point. This one is different. This election is an election with a big difference. I consider it the most important, one of the most important, if not the most important election in British history. I think I went into more details about this on the live stream, but we're in a situation now, where it all ties in with Brexit and everything associated with Brexit, which is far deeper and more complicated than even most Brexiteers understand. This day, polling day, is the 12th of December, Thursday, 12th of December 2019. Could be a turning point. It's a crucial turning point in the history of Britain and the rest of the world. It's not, I was talking to someone the other day on Facebook, and they said, you know, this is, everyone was a bit nervous, you know, we are a bit nervous, but they said, there's so much at stake, how can you not be nervous? And I said, yes, this today will be the deciding point of whether representative democracy in this country continues or not. Which is true. Really, the outcome of this election will decide the outcome of Brexit, which will decide whether or not, and I can't find anywhere bloody quiet in this damn city. How did this become a university town? You know, it was one of the most famous universities in the world. There's noise everywhere, so students can't concentrate. Oh, God. Anyway, let's go down this road, a bit quieter. So, it literally is that. It is literally that important. It's a very unusual election, as I said. It's the third election since 2015. We don't normally have them that often. Before then, it was pretty much, you know, within the 5-year cycle, the quintennial, I suppose you could call it, to use American language. We have them every 5 years maximum. That's our law here. 5 years minimum, but you can have them more often. And there's been 3 since 2015 because of the political crisis this country's been in since then. But you know, it's about far more than Britain, it's about far more than British democracy and the mother of all parliaments and all these things, even though these things are true. It is about the New World Order. It's about basically the entire Illuminati occupation of the world and whether it will continue or not. That's how important it is. I've said before about how proud I am. And it seems somehow fateful. I live in this country that could decide the fate of the entire world. It is, I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want this video to be too long because I have to upload it, I have to edit it and upload it before the Hapanwo show this evening. So I don't want to make it too long. I've already done like the titles and preliminaries and middle bits. But that's how important it is, and I'll say more about that in the future. I am doing a live stream tomorrow at 7 p.m. That is Friday the 13th. Yeah, which hopefully won't be a Friday the 13th nightmare, part 20 or whatever it is, where we all die. Hopefully it's not. Sorry, rainwater again, just a sec. Well, of course you never know, do you? Yeah, Friday the 13th. Tomorrow I'm doing 7 p.m. as a live stream. I put up a notice for it, so check that out. Where I'll discuss basically the results of the general election. But there's a hell of a lot riding on this. The lines it's like these historical lines and forces are focused like a laser beam on a crystal on this particular day. And what happens today could decide the outcome of the entire world. It could. I mean, it's not, however it goes, right? If it goes well, it doesn't mean, if it goes the way I want it to, that doesn't mean we're out of the woods, not by a long shot. If it doesn't go the way I want it to, it's not the end of the world. It's not our last chance. Not in the greater sense, not in the greater sense when you look at the entire New World Order and everything. Just going to cross over here. Okay. There's that house I told you about. I told you about over there. I won't show you. You've seen the pictures, but there's that house. That's the house I told you about. I'm just going to nip through here. It's a bit dry. I've got some tree cover under here. There's British weather in it. So I went into the polling station. It's very simple. It just takes a few minutes. It's sort of like going to the dentist, but not as painful. It's never as bad as you think it's going to be. We'll use the good old-fashioned pen on pencil and paper, and fold the paper, put it in a box system, which still is the favourite and most secure means of doing elections. Of course, some countries, including the United States, or some areas, parts of the United States, now using electronic voting, which is a big problem. And it's not the only way you can vote in this country either. There's postal voting. That's a big issue when it comes to fraud. I will say more about electoral fraud tomorrow on the live stream, but I don't want to go into detail of it now. But postal voting is one of the means by which electoral fraud has been committed, and electoral fraud has happened in this country. There are people who've been convicted of it, including some of the people who are running the Peterborough by-election, in which Labour won by 100 votes and just unseated the Brexit Party candidate. Now, on the subject of the Brexit Party, I watched Maitusi's latest video about it, and while he was extraordinarily downhearted, and it's when Maitusi gets downhearted, you're in trouble because he's such a white pill, you know. He was saying first he said the latest opinion polls are a bit worrying. They're not. I mean, the most likely outcome of this is that Boris wins, but does get a majority. He does win. He does get a majority, albeit not a big enough one as we really need, but it will still be a majority, which means he can continue in government. But it's possible there will be a hung parliament, and I'll say more about that tomorrow, about what happened, because of course by tomorrow's live stream we'll know what happened. Right now we don't, but Maitusi was also saying he was a bit concerned about that, and he was also pointed out the very thing that we warned everyone about. And I thought, oh no, it's all right. No, Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, these guys have got something up their sleeve, surely. Well, it turns out they didn't. The Brexit Party, according to the opinion polls on the individual seats, which has been published by the European newspaper, it's been gloating about it, there's a dozen seats across the North Country, across the Leave Heartland, in which the vote has been split by the Brexit Party to the point where it could be split enough to let Labour through anyway by default. The Brexiteers have been divided and ruled, which means Farage is the extra cook that spoiled the broth if that happens. You know, for all his posturing and his eloquence and his speeches and his passionate outcries, he's thrown a spanner in the works, hasn't he? I mean, some Brexit Party candidates have understood this, and they've actually. I mean, you can't stand down because the nominations are all closed. You can't back out of an election now. Well, at least one of them has turned to their electorate and said, "Could you please vote for the Tories?" Because you can see this happening. He's seen the polls himself. He realises what's happening. Unlike Farage, he cares more about Brexit than he does about the bloody party. I've lost. Every new piece of news makes me think less and less of Nigel Farage. I mean, Caroline Stevens, if you're watching, I know you warned me, didn't you? You warned me, and it turns out you're probably right. And then maybe I should have listened to you, and I'm sorry I didn't. Yeah, so that's something I'll say more about. I'll probably cover in more details tomorrow. But I have voted, and now, as I said, what I've just done may be extremely important, and you please must go out there and vote. You really must, because it's absolutely vital, especially if you live in a marginal seat. I mean, I know a guy who's been doing like phone canvassing. He's like arranging taxis to get some people to the polling station who didn't vote. You know, he's arranging things like that to get people out and get them voting in his constituency, which is somewhere in Watford. And this is for all the reasons I've just said. The whole of history is converging on this moment. These lines are just all leading here. All roads lead to this day, and we have to act. This is, as I said, about so much more than Brexit. It's about so much more than Britain, even though it is about those things. This represents a struggle, an internal struggle within this country that has been going on since the Roman conquest in one form or another, between two views of life, two philosophies, two concepts of the universe have been two concepts of the universe have been fighting each other for control of the soul of the British people and the British nation. One of them is foreign and recent, and the other is ancient and native. Which one will win in the end? It may not be decided tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be one of the most important days in that. It's going to be the most important moments, definitely. I used my pen. I went into and I just handed my polling card over. This little card they send you in the post. And it may be different if you live in a different country. You may be slightly different. I don't think I'm any drier under these trees. But you hand a card over to the person behind the desk who's like a clerk, and they give you a polling plate, a slip of paper with all the different candidates on, and you just put a cross on the piece of paper, which you can fold over and put into a big box which is secured with ties. But along with the postal voting, you know, this is another thing. I'm sure in the best traditions of Blue Peter, there's a few they made earlier, and they may be adding them to the count. And now, not in here in Oxford East, because this constituency, as I say, is Ramona Cuck Central, and Annalisa Dodds, our Labour MP, cannot lose. Literally, she couldn't lose if she tried. These people would vote Labour if they reintroduced slavery and brought back thumbscrews for traffic offences. I mean, really, they literally couldn't lose. But in a marginal seat, there may be some attempts to influence the outcome somewhat with a few extra boxes. So that is something we're going to be on our guard against. Now, the pen. The reason I use the pen, I mean, really, I'm not sure if it's actually matters that much, because when it comes to electoral fraud, I don't think actually fiddling with the papers themselves is likely. I mean, I know there was this thing called #UsePens during the 2016 referendum, and I do it just out of principle for that reason. But I mean, there was a comedy sketch actually that showed it had James Bond like in a white tuxedo on a sun lounger, with a vodka martini on the table and bikini babes all around him, the sort of thing. And he's like got a big pile of papers, and he's got a rubber, and he's got a pencil, and he's rubbing out the cross, and he's putting the cross in he's rubbing out the cross in the Leave European Union and putting a cross in the Remain in the European Union box. No, real electoral fraud is not as crude as that. But I still use the pen just out of principle, just out of, I don't know, maybe principle. I also put a bet on Boris. I put a tenner on Boris down at the bookies just before I voted, which hopefully will win me something. Yes, you never know. I didn't even look to see what the odds were actually. Probably not very good, because I mean, Boris is if you want to win a lot of money, don't bet on Boris. I mean, Boris is like the most likely outcome is that Boris will win. He'll win with a majority. He just needs 9 more seats for that majority. As I said, I mean, that must mean the independents are coming back in to the part, the ones who've had the whip removed, and they're coming back into the party, which means Boris just needs 9 seats to win, so he says. So it's different from my estimate on the live stream, but we'll see what happens. I'll discuss that more tomorrow. Like I say, if Boris wins, we're not out of the woods. If Boris doesn't win, it's not the end of the world. But I'll say more about that as and when required, as the situation requires. I was just thinking about what about my choice of voting. It's very interesting because, yes, I voted Conservative. I voted for the Conservative and Unionist Party. Ben Emlyn-Jones, voted Tory for the first time in my life. Oh man, if my 18-year-old self could see me now. I'm going to go back along this way, it's too noisy, I don't want to go on the main road. I've got time before work. If my 18-year-old self could see me now. You wouldn't believe it, right? But I used to be a trade unionist. Yes, I did. I mean, when I started out at the hospital portering, I very quickly became seduced by the lure of trade unionism. I was very left-wing. I used to go on pickets, I used to go on to meetings, I went to a conference by the seaside once. I trained as a shop steward at this conference by the seaside. I think I've said at one point, we joked about voting Tory, and I said I'd rather stick my knob in a bee's nest than vote Tory. Or something like that. I said something like that, and I'm going to go underneath those trees there to see if it's a bit drier. There's rain falling on top of the camera, which hopefully won't ruin it. But here I am. So, I won't say how many years later, but a number of years later, I just voted Tory. And my 18-year-old self would be horrified that, is this what I'm going to become? He'd probably commit suicide. I probably wouldn't, I probably wouldn't be here now because he'd probably commit suicide. But I voted Tory. It just shows how we change. We as people change. We evolve. We take on new positions. Oh. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I really want Boris to win. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a Conservative with a big C. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party. I wouldn't call myself a supporter of the Conservative Party. But I love old Bojo. I think he's great. I think he is Britain's Trump, and I'll cover that. I've told you about Boris before, and I'll say more before. I don't want to repeat myself because I don't want this video to be too long. As I said, I want it to be quite short. Of course, Labour. Well, my dad is. I think my dad's going to vote in Labour. I mean, my dad is, like I said, he's not only a Ramona. He's about as extreme as Ramonas can get. I mean, he says my heart says Lib Dem, but my head says Labour. So the Liberal Democrats' position on Brexit is actually, it's refreshingly honest, I must say. I mean, I almost admire their simple lack of hypocrisy. They're not trying to dress the situation up in the flowery language of pseudo-democracy like Labour are. Labour talk, well, we will have a confirmatory referendum and let the people decide. Jeremy Corbyn will remain neutral, and the Lib Dems aren't doing that. They're saying we will make this go away, which they can't. We will stop Brexit. We will stop Brexit. We will basically just stop the whole process down. We will shut the process down. If you vote to leave, to hell with you. We just want to stop Brexit. That's it. It's revoke and sod the folk. They are literally saying, we don't care if you voted leave, we are going to disenfranchise you. We don't, and that kind of straightforwardness is a sign, I think, is a good sign, because honestly, it's something that literally could not happen in the pre-2016 world. It would just simply not happen. And it's going to destroy them, it's going to destroy the establishment. That fact that the masks are now have fallen off and we can see their true faces. That is why whatever happens today, in the long run, it can only be good for us, I think. Now, I do urge you to go to Hapanmo Radio and listen to the Hapanmo show I'm going to do this evening at the time of recording and hopefully uploading. I may put a link in the description box to that as well, where I interview Claire Ray Randall, who's a great lady, a lever and a spiritual person. Honestly, this weather, I'm wondering if the weather is actually a good sign. It's because, of course, British people moan about the weather, don't we? It's almost like a tradition. We have this lousy weather and we complain about it. And the weather is exactly the kind of classic British weather that we complain about. And it's here now, and it's almost like the elements are saying, traditional Britain is alive and well and strong, and is going to endure. It's going to persist through this globalist onslaught, which is represented by the current opposition, which of course is the establishment. I had a debate with Ian R. Crane a number of years ago. Good guy, and he actually came to Nottingham and he stayed with me in Sewer Stane. And I was, do you remember he was doing that Apathy Kills tour, where he was telling people to go out and vote? And he got a big backlash from lots of people, including me, saying, all the classic conspiratorial lines, there's no point voting, the government will win, don't matter who you vote for, they're all the same. If the voting worked, they wouldn't allow us to do it, etc., etc. You know all the classic lines. The classic anarchist, conspiratorial, the conspiratorial anarchist lines. And at the time I believe, well, it's not that I believed it then and I've changed my mind. It's that the situation has changed, which means that I have now changed my position based on this new situation. In the post-2016 world, it is worth voting. At least it certainly is in this election. I can't say for all coming elections, depends how things go, but at the moment, with a guy like Boris Johnson in charge, it is worth it. If you have someone and something to vote for. And that's certainly the case now, it really is. So I would definitely say vote, go out and vote. There's still some people who maintain this position, Boris is an insider, Trump's an insider, can't you see it? But, I can see through the disinformation, but you can't, posers. There's still some people that they hold that position and they're wrong. They're wrong. So get out there, get your arse to your polling station and vote. Vote, vote, vote. this country out of the European Union, get it out of the New World Order. Boris is the man to do it. And I know not everyone agrees. Caroline Stevens doesn't agree with me on that, and she may be right about Farage, but I think she's wrong about Boris. Maybe I'll say more about that later. Maybe I can debate it with her on her show. But get out there and just vote. Get this bloody New World Order stopped by getting Britain out. Britain is the country that's going to throw the first brick against the New World Order. This is the new Boudica Rebellion. Get out there and rebel. Rebel with your ballot slip and your pencil, or pen in my case. Yeah. So, thank you very much for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, stop the New World Order.